With Tron Ares debuting in theaters next month, we figured now is the perfect time to explore this subject just a little bit further. This is I Have No Title and I Must podcast. We are your hosts, Tyler
and Chris.
And for me, Tron is one of those series that's always kind of been in the zeitgeist, and like you can see it's like influenced throughout like a lot of different things. And it's one of those I always said, I'll get to it later. I'll get to it eventually. But only just watched both Tron and Tron Legacy in the past few weeks in preparation for this video. So I know for you it's more been like a childhood
Yeah,
thing.
I saw it advertised. I mean, it came out like the year I was born, so I didn't go see it then. And if I did somehow, I wouldn't remember. I saw it advertised and thought, there's nothing else that looks like this. That's crazy. It's amazing looking.
Yeah.
If the story's not great, who cares for like a kid, you know?
Yeah, and that is true. Like nothing else did look like that because it's the first to use like all computer generated special effects.
Yeah, and nothing else ever will look like it again, or at least exactly in this specific photo processing way, because Kodak made special film just for them, which they were supposed to use it in a perfect sequence, and they screwed up. So when they were watching it back, like as they were making it, they were noticing like every so often there would be like a bright flash and some other inconsistencies, and they were like, what is going on? Like, did Kodak screw up our thing? And then they found out they're numbered. The boxes were all numbered and they didn't know that, so they got all mixed up. So they leaned into it and continued to use them all out of order. And whenever that would happen, they would just add in a sound effect, making it sound like a digital glitch or something. You can go back and watch that, know that that's the case. So
I was gonna say, the thing I found funny about this is at the time, a lot of like people were like furious that they had like no traditional animation or special effects and it was all computers.
Yep.
And it pretty much just predicted the future.
Yeah, they actually got overlooked for any awards at the time because they had used computers, as if they hit a button that said, make Tron movie, computer, and then the computer just did it all for them. As if all these people aren't still physically doing the stuff with the computers to accomplish the same thing, just in a different capacity than they would have with regular cell animation or what have you. And back then, it would have been even more labor intensive than it is now, like where we do have AI and other things. You can make so much with that. Not saying it looks good or anything, but I'm just saying, like, they really worked on this movie, and there was a lot that went in to document it as well. There are extensive documentaries, which I have watched almost all of, if not all of, that I have either come with the DVDs over time or that were on, that people have devoted time to on YouTube. It's a pretty niche thing. Seemed like it would have been the sort of thing that either, you know, you get one of, you know, like a one-off, so many of those in the 80s, but then they also, the 80s and late 70s spawned a lot of huge franchises that then permeate to this day. This seemed like it would have been perfect for that. Do a better one, though. Like, do it slightly better, refine the art of what you're doing to make it easier to accomplish, go from there. And that would happen 50 years later. So it wasn't 50 years later, but it did feel like it was like 30 years later.
Yeah, it's closer to 50 than not, I guess.
Which Jeff Bridges was still alive. Bruce Boxleitner's still alive, and there was very little. There was a computer game. I can't remember what it was called, like Tron 2.0 or something, I think. And in that one, they went in a different direction, and you played as Bruce Boxleitner's character's son, not the Tron character, but David Bradley. I can't remember what his. Damn, I should know this. Bradley. That was his last name. That really should be in front of me. So anyway, it was okay. I did not play it. I've looked up stuff about it, and also like a movie about a video game would really be perfect for like video game storytelling. Yeah. You would think they would also lean into that. But almost every time, Tron is like the little franchise that could apostrophe T in that apostrophe T.
The Light Cycle game there's a mini game in Grand Theft Auto 5 where you can actually sit and play the light cycles.
Is it like in an arcade or something? Or
yeah, kinda. It's like one of the apartments you can buy for like one of your businesses or whatever.
Yeah.
Like on the TV, if you walk up to it, you can start playing, and that's one of the games.
So eventually we got Tron Legacy. There was like a little, they made a little video for it. I think I talked about this previously, which was kind of a proof of concept. And it's probably not exactly canon, but there's nothing explicitly in it that wouldn't be. But it just really showed how far the technology has come to like do something that looks like this, that would be in this world, and evolve it into something else. So for Tron Legacy, they started working on a new video game that would be like on all the consoles and platforms, and it was a slight prequel to the movie. I think that was a mistake. There was a comic book that basically spanned, it was like also a prequel. It was like spanned the history of Flynn, Jeff Bridges' character, from like right after the original movie to when he gets stuck inside. Also, we should, if we haven't said at the top, this is full spoilers for everything previous to Tron Ares, because
one movie is like 40 some years old,
yeah,
and the other one's like 15, 16 years old.
Yeah. So if you haven't watched these by now, we're probably not going to convince you to. You're here because either you don't care and you
But if you are afraid, stop now. They're both on Disney Plus. Go watch it. Come back.
Yeah, they're like, yeah. So then there was a comic book prequel. There was a video game, which is also a prequel, and I think it's almost exclusively set inside the grid.
And there's an animated series.
The animated series, which they recreate one scene. I watched all of this recently. I watched it when it was on, but they did the same thing they did with like Futurama, where they kept screwing around with the time, the days. You could never catch it. It was like, is this new? Is it a rerun? What's going on? And then it was just going, and it was setting up for some pretty cool stuff. When I finally did watch it, it didn't get a final episode, Not necessarily a huge cliffhanger, but many loose threads. So let's go back and just talk about the original Tron for a minute. The basic premise is this guy wrote these video games, and a guy that he worked with I don't even know if he outranked him in the company or not, if they were basically
time,
peers.
I don't think he did.
I think they were basically peers, and he somehow stole his intellectual property and all his hard work creating these video games, took credit for them, excelled himself through the company up to like essentially the top, while Flynn got ousted. Started just an arcade to make ends meet. And he created a program to infiltrate their system to try and find the proof that, Dillinger stole his hard work. That program is called Clue. I think they're basically, because Clue he gets killed, and it's implied he's gotten killed a lot. So he just keeps creating like new versions of Clue. This is also, it's reminiscent. It makes you think of, when you watch this now, you just think of the internet, like everything interconnected.
Yeah.
But that was so far out from being a mainstay in everyday life. For regular people.
Because the concept of the internet was around beforehand. But the internet as we know it didn't come into existence until, I think, a year or so after Tron. And then even more so before like home computers and the internet was a mainstay.
Yeah. But like normal people didn't know the internet until even after it was widely available. And if you don't believe me, look up the Today Show talking about the internet when high schoolers were able to get on and try to figure out what kind of information you could get. And they're like, is it a series of tubes? No, that was actually a politician who didn't know what he was talking about. That was on The Daily Show. But they're like, it's funny when you see like in the late 90s on the Today Show, they're talking like, did I email you? Did you get my email? I emailed you. Hold on. I have to hit send. Now I've emailed you. People didn't know what the internet was for a really long time. And this also is a huge thing with, yes, it did exist. And it was, I think mostly used by the government and the military and other like major companies.
Catalogs and travel blogs, as Bo Burnham would tell us.
Yeah. But when it was like, when can it make an impact on everyday regular people? Just like, my mom had a pager that was kind of, like a lot lot of people think of pagers like you get a buzz and you look at a little black box and it has a number on it, because that's what most of them would or could do. She had kind of a souped up one that was a little bit bigger. It didn't flip up or anything. It just had like a little, like one of those like dark green screens on it that kind of looked like a calculator, and it could send short messages. So like a precursor to, you know, a basic texting device. But like when our technology is going to be fiscally available for the masses, and when will they have like a practical applicable use for it? If regular people can't really use the internet for, you know, it's like, I can send you this data stream to like download this thing, and, you know, like I know people who don't own a computer, barely keep up with their phone because they just want to live their life or whatever. They don't care about books or reading or anything like that. It's just how can we parlay this into entertainment or media somehow, you know, like blogs, you know, which is a form of news.
Yeah.
If you want to consider that, or at least editorial pieces. When I think about this, and I was talking about this the other day, there's so few people that there's like this divider line, like before and after, and it really is kind of, it started with the internet being like the wide proliferation of it. Mostly, I think in schools is where you would hear about it first, because they would have the money to have at least medium to nice computers. Most people did not own a computer at home, and if they did, it was probably not the newest thing that could be used to like do the best stuff online. If you did have an okay connection, like initially, downloading videos take forever. Gotta have the right
I didn't even
plugins.
try.
Yeah. And I was talking to my fiance about, I ran into this friend from school. We're the same age, like we're within a year of each other. And it becomes this thing of like this unspoken thing of we were there when we were right on the cusp, like our latter teenage years, when this all started to kind of come together, and it was this monumental pivot, a societal change. It would happen, there would be another massive shift when the iPhone came out, because before then, like, you could use your phone for various things and you could see videos on it. Sometimes if you had a really good phone, you could send videos.
If you're really lucky, you could play Snake.
Yeah, that was, or, you know, and like texting or like photos, like really bad quality photos for the most part. But the iPhone kind of also changed everything, where you basically would have a very, a nice but primitive computer that would fit in your pocket, and it could do most everything. And as it's gone on, more than your computer, you wouldn't take your laptop, a foldable, you know, thing that would sit on your lap, to go take a photo of somebody. That would be ridiculous, stupid, and impractical. Even like they put cameras in like iPads, and I've seen people like, here, let me take a photo, and you look stupid with like this giant tray shaped thing trying to take a photo of somebody. Like, that's a last ditch effort. Like, well, this is also a camera. Like, is it? Like, we just slap cameras on everything now, just in case. It's like early stages of videography. Like, it's got electrolytes and a camera, because why wouldn't it? Like my PS7 player is also a camera, but how would you, hold on, I have to unplug it from the thing, which this is like a 30-minute setup when I replug it in. But I mean, you get the thing and you drag it out with all its wires and cords, like, oh, here, hold this. The controller? Yeah, that's how you take the picture with the thing. You have to control it. But like, people who grew up with just the internet, that don't remember what it was like before that. Before either the internet being everywhere or iPhones being everywhere. I'm not saying it was better or worse, because there were a lot of differences and things. Like, if you look at old, like, modern photos where you catch everybody like with their heads down in the phones, and it's like, oh, that's disappointing. People still did that with like books and newspapers. Yeah. But there was a difference, because you don't have to turn the newspaper off, and you don't run to the newspaper every 5 minutes to see what time it is. That's my worst problem. Is just like, I'll do that reflexively, and 30 seconds later be like, I didn't even comprehend the time. I didn't take it in. I just glanced at the phone because it's a reflex mechanism.
Especially when you're at work and you're wanting the day to pass.
Yeah, that's exactly when I do it the most. Like when I'm at home, I'm not like, oh, I can actually miss texts and phone calls because I will leave my phone laying on a table for too long. I usually have something playing on it in my headphones. That's how I can be away from it. I don't have to actually be looking at it because I'm better than everybody else. No, I'm not saying that makes me better than everybody else because I waited a really long time before I submitted. People were like, why don't you have a phone yet? I would get made fun of. And now, it's like, I think either this year or late last year, Jack White made a post about finally having a phone for the first time. And I was like, yeah, he had the wherewithal to be able to stay away from it as long as he wanted, really. I mean, it was his choice. Now you can't even park in some larger cities. You have to have a phone to access. You can't just put a quarter in the machine or pay somebody in cash or with a card even. You have to have like some sort of connection to the internet to access, to be able to pay.
That's what's crazy about a lot of things now. Like watching Tron now, not having watched it then.
Yeah.
It's like these sci-fi movies predict so much. Mm-hmm. It's like, why are people just like, why is this happening? Why is this like that? It's like, they told you it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Because like even the rise of like AI and taking over people's lives.
Yeah, this is literally AI.
Yeah.
Like they created these things, and inside the computer world is like these sentient beings that exist that are essentially just AI. They're just confined to the system, and they have their own like religion and everything. Like they look at the regular people and call them the users, and they're essentially their gods, which is a really interesting layer to it. I also did just want to say, like, I've seen this movie several times. I usually come back to it about every 5 or 10 years or something. And at different points in my life, I've judged it differently. Earlier, I have judged it more harshly. The most recent time I watched it, fairly recently, I found some charm in it that I hadn't in a long time. The other thing was that I tried to think about it the way that I thought about it as a kid. Like, because I thought it was a stupid premise, like a video game company has a CEO and they have this huge tower and they're so important. That's so stupid. But the other thing is, in the basement, they're working on like teleportation and like digital transfer of physical matter. And it's like, that's exactly, like all these companies, Apple, Microsoft, they all do a million things, and some of them a lot of them have government contracts for certain things to do, like, because they also do say, I'm not saying it's any one specific company or whatever, but just as an example, like some company does like the digital mechanism for like targeting for like missiles or whatever. They didn't just hire some guy from somewhere. It would be like somebody from like Texas Instruments that also makes calculators or designs better calculators, and then they also have a side job doing this through that company. Looking at it as an adult, I'm like, oh yeah, oh my God. It was like that too. Like they had both of those things going on. It's like, what are the practical applications of teleportation? A million things. And also you basically have like a disintegration device too. Because like once you have it in the machine, you don't have to release it. You could just hit click and it's gone. So what could that do in a war? Just saying. Anyway, they do use that against the guy who's trying to get his information back so that he can prove that he created these video games, and then he'll be on top of the world, and he gets put into the machine. And there was something that I noticed recently, bearing in mind while I was watching the original Tron again, and I knew that I was going to finish Tron Evolution, the animated show.
Yeah.
I think it was called Evolution. And while I had actually watched, I didn't know how much of it or how little of it I had seen before when I was watching it on TV, but it was it wasn't on anything for a long time, and I don't think it ever got a DVD release. If it did ever, I was not privy to that, and I looked for it. I eventually gave up and moved on. Keeping Tron Legacy and all the other stuff in mind, I was watching this, and there was something I noticed. There was this correlation to the Holocaust. And I was like, of course, I mean the one in Germany in the 40s. And because there have been several. But the use of what looked like trains on like an energy thing, you know. I think almost it kind of maybe bears the look of like a yacht or like a seafaring vessel of some type, but and there's no real one-to-one. But the way that inside the grid, it had been taken over by the fascistic MCP, the Master Control Program, and the way that he controlled people, and then, you know, they were put into, they're basically in prison, you know, once they're rounded up, they're gathered up, they're put into prison, and then forced to, like, fight for sport. And we talked a little bit about this in the previous conversation, because we talked about the correlation, I think, to, you know, even slavery, like when they would have those fights. Then I dug a little deeper because you can't ignore. If you want to say, like, I'm reaching for that one, I would say, okay, that's fine. Because maybe I'm seeing something that I noticed it, but it could just be in my head and I could be, you know, like projecting onto that. But going into Tron Legacy, it's undeniable because there is literally what you find out. Okay, so the end of Tron is they win. And they destroy the Master Control Program. They get the proof. Flynn becomes CEO or some extremely high-ranking person. We do find out later he's, you know, total control of the company. And he had this secret, I mean, in-game goal, but we don't really know what it is. He just wanted to change everything because his discoveries inside the grid, he knew that he was on the cutting edge of technology, being able to go back and forth from this, like, microscopic electronic world, and then life manifested like naturally when they had the IOs. This changed everything for him because they were, you know, real life that just spawned from nothing. But the other programs were like racist against them, and especially Clue. Clue would be that this is all like essentially canon, non-canon-ish. It's in stuff like alluded to, because a lot of what happens in between is like in the comic book, the video game, a lot of which are probably not considered canon. Sometimes I wonder why people even try. You know, it's not going to be considered canon. They're going to take in, like, even Star Wars does that. Like Star Wars, the one main guy wrote all like 6 movies, and even he decided, like, you know what, you know that line about like Yoda when he was like, Yoda, the Jedi master who trained me, I'm gonna throw that out the window because I don't want that right now, and we're just gonna play like he's the only one left, so, and he kind of trained everybody, so, you know, from a certain point of view the line still works. Anyway, like, everything has a tie-in novel or comic book or video game, and none of it matters in the sequel ever. I don't know why they can't just like collaborate and like make it like work, but whatever.
Money and ego.
Yeah. So Clue, the avatar, like Flynn's avatar, becomes like he decides that they're gonna take him out completely, and they do a Holocaust. They call it the Purge, but so far as we know, there's only one IO left. And you don't know that at the beginning of Tron Legacy. You do find out into it that it's Cora, played by Olivia Wilde. And he really wants to get her out. It's implied that these programs could enter into the real world. What the ramifications for that would be a nightmare for us, and for them probably. That movie ends with Sam and Cora getting out into the real world. I don't know how her suit translated into like a leather jacket, but whatever. Anyway.
Well, that could be a new addition.
I am not here to question that.
Because we don't know how much time passed.
We don't. It could have been days.
Yeah.
Really. I don't think so. But it could have been. So that's the no prize. Like, it was at least a day later they got her. She wrapped her in something. They got home and they came back. And, I mean, he's most likely, like, rich or whatever anyway.
Well, he does his own majority share of the company.
Yeah. So why he was living in like a storage container thing on the river, who knows? He just wanted to, I guess. He's a weird guy.
Rebellious phase.
Yeah, that for sure. There was extra media that went with this too that was like physically shot. Like, they brought the guy back who was one of the 3 main programs in the first movie, the guy that played Ram. He was involved in a few little extra scenes with Bruce Boxleitner. They were talking about like taking back the company and leaving the Dillinger kids. So Cillian Murphy played Dillinger's son in this, and it was not much more than a cameo, but like, man, I was really looking forward to a sequel to this where he would be like another version of Sark, basically, or something, because that would have been amazing. But they have to things up. And there was this whole like Flynn Lives like kind of underground extra like media campaign where they were trying to boost momentum for a sequel. They did the animated series, which was also a prequel, which would have taken place before the events of Tron Legacy. They recreate one of the scenes, the scene where we're meant to think Tron dies, and they add on to it a little bit, like before it. And Tron didn't die. He was just severely damaged and infected with like this computer virus, which is slowly killing him. And where we end up at the end of that show is you think that that's where he's going to become Rensler, but he doesn't. They actually cure him and he's back to his full strength and he's still like original Tron. But you really think like, oh, this is the moment when he's just they're gonna get him and they're gonna repurpose him. Also, like the show's decent. It's okay. It's got a lot of I don't think it's even that heavy handed. It's just a strange universe, and it's, you get your like the good guys versus the bad guys sort of thing, and like a secret identity. The guy does have a secret identity because he wants to incite revolution, but he doesn't really have a way to do that as himself because he would just get killed. Because in the first few moments of the first episode, a friend of his gets killed by what is essentially the police, like right in front of him, for not really even resisting, just for asking questions. That kind of radicalizes him, and that guy's played by Elijah Wood. So they had like some really top actors working on this: Paul Rubens, Lance Hendrickson, and the rest. Bruce Boxleitner came back to play Tron again. Like almost every video game and animated thing, anytime there's something Tron related, he's in. The crazy thing is, he was in the first movie, he was the one I think that hated it the most. Because he's like, comes from westerns, cowboy movies. Like he's old school actor. And he came in and he was like, so what are these things again? What am I playing? And they're like, it's like a program. And he's like, do they have emotion? Like what is, make it, I don't understand. And for him to have just like eventually gone all in and like been in that much involved this whole.
Because I know they said that they had actual arcade systems on site and encouraged them to play in between.
Yeah,
and that Jeff Bridges actually got really good and almost obsessed with them. Yeah, so he almost embodied his character for that.
Totally makes sense. I started thinking about how often we see like an allegory movie about the Holocaust, because there's a lot of movies that are just about the Holocaust, like that one that Jerry Lewis made that like is maybe going to get released but has never been released, where he's like a clown in the concentration camps, like Schindler's List, I think, Zone of Interest from last year, the year before.
Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
There's a lot of like that are about. There's no mixing words. It's not an allegory like, oh, you know what that movie's really about? It's about the Holocaust. Like, yeah, we know. Now, this is a different situation, though, because if somebody told you that, you'd be like, oh, what, the first one, like, yeah, you might be reaching. With the second one, it's like, okay, yeah. But they went, a really roundabout way. The show feels a little bit more like that, too, like the animated show, because it's like the rise of authoritarianism and a fascistic regime that comes in and controls everything. And it is scary because it can so easily happen. People don't think that it can until there's like a military force that's being used to police the streets, so wherever you happen to live at, and they can't be reasoned with because they don't care. So I did just a cursory bit of research, and I tried to look for connections. Like, are people talking about this? Because like I said, I've watched a lot of stuff about Tron, but I haven't seen anybody talking about the Holocaust connection. And I went back, and if you type in like Tron Holocaust, you get, I hate how the algorithm works on YouTube now. You can't even find stuff you're kind of looking for. Gave me a bunch of shorts that had to do with Tron, and then it just veered completely away. It did give some videos that were connected to Tron, but then it was just random other things. I eventually did find this interview, or at least a portion of an interview with Steven Lisberger, who is the original writer-director. He's the one who started the little animation company that would do regular animation and then also the computer animation. He's the one who really jump-started this whole thing. They made Tron, and that's kind of it. He has a cameo in Tron Legacy and was a producer on it, so he was, involved. His father, he said his father was a German Jew. Both his mother and his father's families were half Jewish. His father was supposed to be sent to a concentration camp, but went into hiding for years and remained free. His grandfather on his mother's side went to Dachau, and his grandmother pulled certain connections to get him out. So after I read that, I was like, oh, so he might have some connections to this. I might not be reading too much into it.
So even if it's not a direct one-to-one, like that inspiration, that little seed is there.
Yeah. I think sometimes a more effective way isn't to shove something in somebody's face and say, like, don't you want to watch this horrific thing? Like, no. I think a better way to inform people is something more like The Great Dictator from Charlie Chaplin, where he plays this clownish version of an Adolf Hitler type, which is Adenoid Hinkle. When he speaks his language, he's basically just doing gibberish for the most part. Some of it's very slapstick. There's a whole dance sequence by himself where he's basically just doing like freeform ballet with this giant inflatable ball that's the globe. And it also has, now it is a misrepresentation of what was going on with the Holocaust and the concentration camps, mostly just referred to as the ghettos. But he said he didn't know. There was a lot of misinformation, like there was a whole Olympics held there and nobody knew what was really happening. So that was something he talked about and said that he did kind of regret that, but having said that, there was no way of knowing like how severe it was, like when there's an information embargo. And like I said, like if we knew there was that, why would we have gone to the Olympics? So now, of course, we knew something. We knew things were going on. And there was even there were movements here. You can look up Madison Square Garden. That's, if you don't know, check it out. There were marches here. They had a lot of support then. So I think this was the person interviewing him said, like, Tron is one of the most important Holocaust movies in years. It has kind of like the Star Wars prequels. It has gotten a little bit more love as time has gone on. Because at the time, I don't think it was received as well. I think it did okay, though. It just felt like people were like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of even
kind of ahead of its time a little bit.
That too, I think that's a big part of it. And I think a lot of people maybe don't understand what they're looking at. It is kind of like, it's not even necessarily like hard sci-fi, like Dark City or The Matrix or something. Like you're in this, just, it's like this digital world. It's just like inside the computer. And I think
it's like
still
Tron walked so the Matrix could run.
Yeah. And the Matrix ran. And then I think sometimes people get some fatigue about certain of these things, like another computer movie. Anyway, I mostly just wanted to talk about the connection to the Holocaust because I literally, maybe people are afraid to just include that sort of language or dialogue in with what they're saying because they want to keep it light and fun. We do the opposite. So there you go. There's that. Tron Legacy. Flynn's been missing for years because there was a coup. There wasn't even like a government structure, I don't think, but Clue creates one. And Flynn has to go into exile, and the only way that he can get back out is cut off from him. In the real world, nobody knows where he went. Some people think he faked his death or that he just really died, or who knows. His son has always been curious about it, but he's like you said, he has this rebellious phase. He could just be like really high in the company making some money, but he instead chooses to like vandalize stuff. But the thing he does though is takes this program that they're gonna sell and releases it for free. He just leaks it online, like essentially like from them, which they're gonna turn around into like a PR, relations thing.
Because what he tells the cops, you can't steal something if I own it.
Yeah. It's like, I run this place, kinda. So he gets a text or message. It's Clue calling out for him, but he doesn't know that's never explicitly stated, but it's heavily implied. It's who it had to come from. He just wanted to lure him in there and change the game a bit. Bring Flynn out in the open because he's basically been in exile there. And after the purge of the IOs, he eventually found Cora and took her in and has kept her safe. So I love that they leaned into the religious aspect in this. That like there's these scenes when the other programs see like Sam, they react to him, but not in the same way they do with Flynn. Mm-hmm. It's like, kind of like ancient Greek mythology when like, Zeus could just come down off of Mount Olympus and just walk among people and have sex with goats or whatever, or be a goat that would trick people into having sex with. Yeah. I don't know what.
I guess that kind of makes sense though, because Sam's a user walking around the computer, but Flynn has done so much within the world.
Yeah, he was just there. It would be like there's no real, again, like there's no real one-to-one, because they say like Neo from the Matrix, like going in and he could like warp reality, like bend the spoon, although the spoon doesn't bend, only you bend. So yeah, this is that. This is, he has information, which we know he's not a god or whatever. He just has information, like he can hack this system, and he has like a level of control that can just come from his mind and warp the reality. It has limitations, obviously, because he has to, physically make his way to the tower to get out. But he can do things like manipulate Cora's code to regrow her arm. She does need time to heal and, like, actually, like, digitally, like, manifest this arm back into reality. But at some point, like, a guard stops him and he just hits him on the head, and it just, like, almost like a hypnosis.
Like reprograms it.
Yeah, like he's just like, drive safely or have a nice day or whatever.
Well, and originally he also like creates new like nexus points on data routes.
Yeah, like he could switch the beam.
Yeah.
Like So this was all really, I wanted to see more of this. And the idea, because he never really rebuffs there. At this point, I think he's sick of this shit. He wants out. He wants his life with his son because he knows that he's ruined his son's life for having not been there. He has, on a personal level, he's missed him. It's his son and he loved him. And he never would have chosen this. This was just his job. And he basically had a work accident.
It's like he was trying to do something good and it just didn't come to fruition.
That is literally the definition of tragedy. When something terrible happens, when you're trying to do something good. That's why it's almost always with a hero type figure. This guy was, even though he was slightly misguided, his intentions were really good. And it wasn't like he himself did bad things. He created a situation where bad things could, like extremely bad things could happen. He kind of created a situation where an entirely new life form would be created, but then it also got holocausted.
Well, that just seems to be with most technology today. It's like, oh, we've created this for this great good. I'm like, yes, but there's a lot of bad people that's not going to use it for that.
Exactly. And that's almost always what ends up happening. So I was really excited to see a Tron 3, whatever form that may have taken. And I was worried more of it would be in the real world, because that seemed to be where they were leaning. And I was obviously right, because when they finally did get around to this, like 15 years later, it looks like a huge chunk of this is in the real world. And so we're going to get to see like the digital vehicles making the light streams, beams, whatever, in the real world. It looks complicated. No, I don't mean by the plot. I mean like the visuals. I feel like some of these visuals are going to be hard to follow. They're going to be so like intense.
I'm afraid that's what the movie's going to be. Is just look what we can do and not have a story. I hope I'm wrong.
It also feels like, so, in Tron Legacy, you find out Tron has been repurposed and turned into Rinsler, who's like, there was a reason why he was the best security program. He was the best fighter and he was the best at a lot of things. So he was like, had these ninja moves and there's no beating him too. Like you just have to get away from him. In the end, he somehow snaps out of it enough to help Flynn escape. And then you see his lights like flicker back to his original blue. That's essentially the titular character, though they named it Tron because it's a cool sounding electronic thing. That's why he had this idea like in his head for years before they made the movie, and was like, Tron, you'd have this guy, it'd be like this electric warrior guy. We'll name the movie Tron. And it's like kind of this dual starring role, because he does have a character in the real world, and he's he's like the main, like, best hero in the digital universe. And then Flynn is like almost like the comedy relief, but he's your point of view character because he's the only real person. He makes jokes. He's, goofy. He's funny. And like, there's this moment that I think really, like, I always say Bugs Bunny had a huge influence on my sense of humor. And even in serious, intense moments, I just have to like sometimes break the tension by doing something really stupid. When they break in to Incom in the middle of the night and they're in this room with all these like servers, he sneaks in there and like, just while they're supposed to be getting busy getting this stuff and getting out, time is of the essence, he makes time to like hide behind one. And when his ex-girlfriend like walks in front of it, he then sneaks up behind her and is like, what are you waiting for, like, what are you doing? And I just thought that was hilarious, and I wonder if that was in the script or if that was just Jeff Bridges being Jeff Bridges, because I think either is possible. So yeah, I also love Jeff Bridges. He's one of my favorite actors. I haven't really mentioned that so far, but that is for sure one main reason why I feel like I was worried he wasn't going to be in the second one as much. And then he's not, like Garrett Hedlund is kind of the star and the main character for this one. But Jeff Bridges is in it quite a bit, and I was grateful for that. And from the first one, it's not like the Logan, I guess it is a little bit like your younger hero. I was going to mention like Han Solo and various other things where you have your young hero, and it's, now they're the old broken down man. Who has to kind of redeem himself. It is that a bit, but it doesn't feel like that, because this is just like him in exile. Like everything was out of his control.
Yeah.
And if it is that, I feel like obviously Logan was really great for that. Han Solo and Indiana Jones, I think, were really bad examples of doing something like that. And I think this was a better example of that. How the character evolved and is also still very much himself. With some of these, like, that's radical, man. Like, that's Jeff Bridges under that beard.
Got that Zen, man. I'm creating this calm.
Yeah, it's like he's not broken down. He's just kind of been in prison.
It's like that's
this whole time.
Like his indudification there.
Yeah. Well, that's just like your opinion, man. So I love that like they evolved the character, I think, in a natural way, what it would have been having to just sit there and with the character that it would have been, because other people would have grown very angry or broken down or just depressed, whereas like that's not necessarily him, and it doesn't take a whole lot for him to just kind of like snap out of it and be a little bit more like himself again. And I love that. I thought it was really well played. Then eventually I start hearing about Tron Ares, and I get apprehensive because I want this to be good. How many more Tron things are we going to get that are just going to be like, okay? Like, Legacy was good, but it was clearly in the middle of a story. It was clearly not meant to be the end, and it's definitely not the beginning. It's not a reboot. Tron Ares borderline looks like a reboot. One of those like soft reboots where it's like, forget about Bruce Boxleitner, forget about Tron, the titular character, forget about the Flynn family. Now, this is just, I've seen what everybody else has seen. I haven't seen anything more or less. I've seen the trailer. If anybody else has seen I've seen a few clips they've released, like, the Burning Man, when some woman is like, Burning Man, and he's like, it's temperature controlled or something like that. And I'm like, who's writing this? So it does have the same director as the second Tron movie. That's a plus. I found that out. That's really good. Why it oftentimes the best decision for a company is not decision that they make. Take a look at, and a lot of people are talking about this now, the price of streaming streaming services.
Yeah.
The reason why streaming services became in vogue and TV and cable and satellite or whatever other thing you may have had just for TV, they say, went the way of the dinosaur. So you have a dinosaur on your mug here, and it's the only thing I could think of.
They also die when it gets hot.
Yeah. Did they really? Did they disappear?
Yeah, it's a color change, and you see those skeletons when it gets hot.
That's funny. Like the satellite and cable prices got out of control. So, like a streaming service that was like $8 a month and you get all of Netflix. Oh my goodness, that's so many things. And then people didn't realize like every company was going to have their own thing, even just for their TV. So to watch a TV show, if you get rid of cable for streaming services, you just want to watch your regular show, like you want to watch NCIS, well, you got to have this one. And then you want to watch the other main show, the Game of Thrones, you got to have this one. You want to watch anything that's Disney related, and that's a lot, you're going to have Disney.
Now that the hooks are in, they make it just this much better than the alternative.
And now they're talking about, all of them are talking about raising their prices, especially like the HBO one is going up, and it's just like it feels ridiculous.
Prices are going up, the quality's going down.
Yeah. The reason I mention that is because even though both movies basically made money and did merchandising, that they are a merchandisable commodity, they shouldn't have looked at it as a failure and just said like, let's keep going. Let's make something good. Maybe we didn't quite hit the mark this time or make like Endgame money. Endgame had not come out yet, obviously, but that would be another 10 years. But it could have been something bigger and better, but they it up.
That's what happens when you have bureaucrats in charge of art.
Yeah, and that almost always seems, sometimes they hit the mark, like...
Well, they say broken clocks right twice a day.
Yeah, so. Like Marvel did really well for a long time, and then it just started being about putting out stuff. For whatever reason, I don't know how James Gunn did it, but he's the top dog at what is making DC's visual media right now, and damn, is he doing well.
I think it's because James Gunn is actually learning from the mistakes that everyone else is making, that the rest of them don't seem to be taking account for.
And he is also an artist, that is trying to balance business. Kevin Feige doesn't do writing. Kevin Feige doesn't write, he might give notes or be like, I like this, do more of this, don't do that, that is that. But he doesn't write, so he's not like your typical, just regular, actor, writer, what have you.
He's only been on one side of the process.
Yeah. So he doesn't know how, if he's invested in all of this, I think it's from a monetary standpoint and just wants to see an empire rise that he is at the helm of. Whereas, James Gunn wants to see the characters that he grew up with come to life and do the things that he thinks are cool.
Yeah, because he is actually a fan of the comic books.
Yeah, but apparently one of these bigwigs decided Tron didn't do what they wanted it to do. Also, there was, at the time, standard action figures were 6 inches. Now, stupid McFarlane thinks they should be 7 for slightly more detail and, I guess, less posability or more. You can argue about that with me. I don't mind taking up that argument. That's one thing that I think we can all get on one side or the other. Some people love them, and some people are like, if you want DC, it's all you can get now. So, if you want DC action figures, you got to buy Farland's in charge of everything. He also doesn't like action figures. Fun fact, he doesn't like the way the knees look or certain aspects of certain action figures. That's why he did statues for so long that had if they had any kind of posability, it was why would you even have that? It was stupid to have it. They were basically just statues. And then he got into the action figure game and just I don't know. So, there is a lot of detail on. Some of them look amazing, and some of them look like weird, homunculi, sort of like the DC. I get, it's they have these spindly legs, from the Justice League Unlimited and the Batman universe. all the men look like you took a piece of Play-Doh and kind of
squeezed it up
a little bit on the top and then just put it on a stick. And those are all the men in the DC, Justice League Unlimited, Batman the Animated Series, like animation style. Don't get me wrong, I'm making fun of it, but I love those. I love those stories, except for like the Question doesn't look like that because he's got a trench coat on, so he just looks, just kind of like a straight all the way down. But they look weird, and that's kind of what the modern DC action figures remind me of. Like they do have longer legs, but like the torsos, there's something wrong about that. Sometimes they look okay, and sometimes it's not quite right. Over at Marvel, they're just less detailed. Like the movie action figures that they do with like real clothes and stuff have some extra detail on there. Some of those look really good, but the standard for a long time became 6 inches. I believe that's 1/12 of
yes.
Yeah, because like 1/6 is like a doll size, which would be like a foot, which is yeah. So for the Tron tie-in action figures, they were like these weird like 7 or 8. It was a strange scale. They were really cool because they lit up and talk, and they had
that's why they were that way.
Yeah, they had to fit the stuff in there. But then they also did like, I think it was like the 3 3/4 inch. It was basically like G.I. Joe and Star Wars, but I don't think they were even the same scale as those. I think it was still even a little off. It's like they up two different lines. Now, the reason those were made were to harken back to the action figures that were made for the first Tron movie that would go into like these light cycles, and they were extremely basic back then. Like think of like dollar store action figures from like the mid 80s of anything, like a guy you put on a little dinosaur thing or something you get at Big Lots.
I'm sure I had plenty of those.
I definitely did. So they have since then done, I think in the 7-inch scale from NECA, they've done ones from the first movie, but not the second, which is weird because Disney owns both, so I don't know why they wouldn't just go ahead and do like Flynn.
Probably more of a nostalgia for the original.
Yes, but the OCD completionist in me really wants them to do this. I haven't seen any. I mean, are we less than a month out from Tron Ares? It's like middle of next month, right?
I think it's the 10th, so the start of next month.
Yeah, so right at that, and
so we're like
I haven't seen
3 weeks out.
Any other than Nine Inch Nails is doing the music, and they're promoting the out of that, which I don't even think they need to. It's Nine Inch Nails. He's on tour right now, and it's doing extremely well, and it looks amazing. So there's that, but I haven't seen any kind of a hint at any kind of action figures. I haven't seen, I'm sure t-shirts are out there somewhere or something, but I haven't seen anything like that. I don't know when they finally got this off the ground. What I'd heard, and I think I mentioned this before at a previous episode, was that it is actually because of Jared Leto. Jared Leto, I don't know if he just wanted to see himself in a Tron movie or if he actually just loves Tron, but he came in and pushed it forward, I think, as a producer, and obviously he's going to be like the main freaking character. I don't know where they're going with this. When I finally found out that Jeff Bridges is going to be in it, I had some hope for it, and then that was dashed when he himself referred to it as a cameo. I'm gonna go see it, and I hold out hope that it can be decent. But yeah, it does definitely. Of course, I don't know, man. Yeah. So I don't know. I hope Tron is good. Please be good. I feel like I have lost all my momentum going into this. Like I was looking forward to it somewhat, and now I'm like, man, I'm more looking forward to that Nine Inch Nails album than which is essentially the soundtrack. I don't know. It feels
like life anymore. You just get so excited, and you're just like, why bother?
So yeah, we'll see. I didn't want to go over the movies like beat by beat or go do the background stuff again. We've talked a bit about that in the past, and I really wanted to hit on this the Holocaust connections, and that I don't know why people don't talk about that more. And the thing is, I started thinking about other movies that do a real one-to-one, like, not like The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, but like the allegory of having a Holocaust. And there's not a lot that do. Some of them will have like somebody wants, like a Doctor Doom type character wants to take over the world, or a Thanos who does want to essentially do a genocide, but it's dispassionate. It's impartial. It's not because of a race or a religion. It's just, he's just being pragmatic, like resources versus consumption and what have you. So it's not that. It's rarely that. And then my mind went to something that was staring me in the face, and I was like, well, there was another purge in a very prominent movie, Star Wars. But even that, and I know some people could say like yes and no. I don't think that's where George Lucas was going.
No, because a lot of that just seems like a World War II in general.
Yeah.
Not just that specifically.
And if you look like internally at the motivations for Palpatine, it's like, it's just this internal struggle war for like people who use the Force. Like, he wants to be in power. And if the allegory was like the Jews were in charge of the police and he had to get rid of the police to get rid of any kind of investigation or way of stopping him from becoming in power, because he has similar powers to the police, like say only the police have guns and he also had a gun, then that would be the case. But like, that was not the case in reality. In this, it's, you know, but they are a police type force. And I know it's not 1-to-1, but still more akin to like samurai or like, you know, bounty hunter type cowboys or something, but with structure. And he needed to remove them. But there's also like probably lore that I'm not even aware of or haven't dug deep enough into that goes back thousands of years, that are this struggle between the Sith and the Jedi, that just like it's this power balance thing. So while there's that imagery that he did eventually actually show of like an entire thing, an entire order being snuffed out, it's more akin to like the Knights Templar, and we don't really look at the Knights Templar as like a real Holocaust. It was, you know, a group of people who could have come from all types of backgrounds or whatever, so it's not even specific to that. So I think like Tron, tell me if I'm forgetting something. And I'm anybody who's listening, tell me if I'm forgetting something. Type in the comments if there's another allegorical Holocaust movie or thing. And I know there are some out there. I've been so busy. Busy and stressed and tired. And is it The Lion King? Is that what it is? I know there's probably a dozen. and I'm just like not seeing it or thinking of it. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to add this because nobody's talking about it with Tron, and I don't know why, and they should be. So there you go, because things are getting dangerous out there. So watch Tron, turn off for a while, and get back in the game.
I think that's a good place to wrap up. If you made it with us this far, thank you. Anything you want to add to the conversation, anything you want to say about Tron or any of the theories we've had about it, feel free to leave it in the comments below. Be sure to follow us on our social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram. We'll leave links in the description below. And until next time, see ya.